So I'll be talking, of course, about technology stuff, but I also want to talk about some just not technology stuff about how we can just get together and play, because we've been thinking a lot about that too. And obviously, we will do virtual choirs and things for fun and when we need to, but we also want to get back to actually being together, um, for real. So we all know about the social distancing topic. I don't want to talk about that anymore. We know what's going on. But I'm going to talk about possible ways to play in person safely, and then using video conferencing applications like Zoom and other things. Also talking about some things that are actually software designed for music, which lets you get around some of the problems, but they also have other issues of their own. And then, of course, how to make virtual ensembles like the quintet that we did. So here's an example. Recently, a group from Pro Arte Chamber Orchestra, they just got on their deck and they did a concert. Um, Instrument players make enough sound that you don't have to be right next to each other the way you might if you were singing in a choir. So there are a lot of possibilities, especially for smallish groups, to just get together and set up somewhere and play. Um, these guys, they had a video camera in the corners, and they had a video camera here at the you know sort of in the front, and they had somebody really knew what they were doing, because they switched between the cameras, they live streamed it, they asked for donations to different groups, um, and they did a really quite nice concert. So click the link sometime. By the way, I sent this is a PDF file, and I sent it to everybody just before we started, so you can follow the links. So for a small group, just find a place to do it. Take advantage of the weather while we can, and we can just play outside.
Two, something doesn't feel right.
What?
My ankle.
Hello?
It's not painful. It just doesn't feel right. Someone's talking to you.
I'm hearing some extra audio. Is that? Do we know what's going on there? Okay, it stopped. Maybe it's just me. I'm hearing voices. All right. So if you start to think about how can a large group play together, it starts to remind me of a marching band. That this is a graduation ceremony in this picture, but you could kind of imagine if they all had instruments and they were all sitting kind of far apart, and maybe the conductor would need a speaker, and they might need to be high up so that you can see them well, and maybe they need a big baton or something. But I could imagine something like this working. You could put some microphones out there and live stream it to people. It seems possible. I know guys are considering different options, but this something like this, while we still have good outdoor weather, might be possible if you can find a place where you can do it. So indoors, we're told we really need to stay especially far apart if we're playing instruments. So probably small groups on a stage, spread apart. We probably, of course, if you get too far apart, then just the distance starts to become a problem. The speed of sound, is about a millisecond for every foot. And so if you get to be 30 feet apart, 50 feet apart or something, not only do the people sound really far away, but their sound is delayed also getting to you. So you can't get infinitely far away, but there's possibilities here. And just another possibility is, like, if you really want to stay distant, one possibility is to be in separate rooms. If you're in separate rooms, you can't hear each other unless you have like a microphone and some headphones. So here's a picture of what that could possibly look like. This is a picture of a music school somewhere, and here's a picture of a mic and headphones, and you could imagine hooking things up so you hear each other. With electronics, the speed of sound traveling through a wire is close to the speed of light. It's like 70% the speed of light. So you don't have any latency problems if you're in the same location with wires, not the way you'd have with Zoom or something. So this is a possibility. It's a little bit complicated, but it's possible. I just want to point out my family's been doing a project kind of like this for singers, which we call the driveway choir, where people literally come over, they stay in their car, we hand them we plug their headphones into a sound system, and they can hear each other from the cars. All right, one other crazy idea. I don't know if I recommend this. Plastic bubbles. Someone actually did this. This is a picture of a rock band that performed where every member was in a plastic bubble. So who knows? There are all kinds of crazy ideas out there, some crazier than others. So that's all I have about playing in person. But my point is just there are opportunities, and when you're together, you just talk about things and you play things more than one time, and you can practice together and you can negotiate about what the tempo should be. Many of the remote possibilities, it's just much harder to just do all those regular things that you would do in a rehearsal. So if we can figure out how to be together and safe, then those are good opportunities. All right, so getting into video conferencing, we've all been on probably more Zoom meetings than we want lately, and so we're kind of familiar with it. So I'm including Skype and FaceTime and all the other things like this. They're pretty much designed for talking, and so there's so much latency that you can't play together. So the sound, like if I'm going to perform something with someone else, my sound has to get through my microphone, through the computer, turned into ones and zeros, squished into the wires, and gets all the way across the internet to them. And then the same thing happens to their sound on the way back. And once you add it together, it might be 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds, which is sort of the equivalent of someone standing all the way across, across a football field from me or something. And you just can't stay together. However, it's still good for some things. Obviously, it's good for things like this where we're just talking, for planning a project, for staying, keeping groups together and staying connected with each other. We've been seeing that Zoom and these other apps, they work pretty well for private lessons, because usually either the student is playing or the teacher is playing, and not everybody at once. It can be pretty good for sharing, one person sharing at a time. And once you get into a group context, it works okay for one person to play and everyone else to mute themselves and play along. That can work, because the problem comes when if everyone's not muted, then their delayed sound will come back to the original person and it will confuse the heck out of them, and they'll probably stop. So it works for one person to play at a time. And then it works pretty well for a host to share a pre-recorded thing, and everyone else can play while muted in their own house. And I'll get to an example of that in a minute. One hint for Zoom in particular, you may see a little button on your screen that says original sound, turn original sound on, turn original sound off. If you're connected on a computer, you probably see it in the upper left corner. This is something that for music, it's really, really helpful to turn the original sound on. Otherwise, Zoom software will say, like, imagine that I play a piano chord and hold it for a while. After about 1 second, Zoom will say, gosh, there's a lot of background noise right around C and G, and I'll just cut those frequencies out. So the chord disappears. And it's very frustrating to hear someone playing that way when all of their sounds are disappearing. So if you turn on original sound, then it turns off that software that is trying to sort of filter out background noise, because it considers the music to sound like background noise. So be sure to turn on original sound if you're going to play any music through Zoom. It'll sound a lot better. But unfortunately, with all these tricks, you can never actually hear the whole group together. So Kenny, if you can allow people to unmute in case they have questions. So if anyone has comments or questions so far, it's a good time.
Where was that original sound thing? I'm not finding it.
Okay. What kind of, are you on a computer, a laptop?
Mac running Zoom.
Okay. Well, for me, when I'm not screen sharing, it's in the upper left corner. There's a little button that says turn on original sound or turn off original sound. And I think if I'm on a phone, I have to click a menu that's over close to the start my, unmute me, mute or unmute button. There's a little menu next
It's on
to
the
that.
bottom right where it says more, there are 3 dots.
I think that's on a cell phone, it does that. So you may need to Google it and kind of hunt around a little bit.
Well, the other place that it is if you go into the settings screen to audio and then to advanced, there's a place you can turn it off and on and off there as well.
Right. Okay. I think I can show that. I think I can show that. That's what the host needs to do that step. So this is off by default unless the host turns it on. And the host goes into settings and they click advanced. So Kenny had to do this so that it's even possible to turn on original sound. So he checked this box. I think if you've never done it before, I think it's unchecked. So you want to turn it on so that your participants in your meeting are able to turn on original sound. And then they all have to find the button on their own computer to do it.
Okay.
So if you search for Zoom original sound, there are lots of instructions, but I just wanted to mention that. So I talked about host shares a recording. So I want to just, because I think this could actually work for the band or for any size group really without too much preparation. So I wanted to just expand on that a little. So if I was going to organize it, I would find some music online. I don't want to scan 80 pages of whatever. I would find something that's already online, ask everybody to print out their part, and then I'd schedule a meeting kind of like this, and then put everybody on mute. Well, first you say, okay, now get out your music for the gladiators. We're going to do the gladiators. So everyone get out their instrument, get all set, and then the host will mute everybody and share a video. So it would look something like, well, I mentioned gladiators because you guys have played it, and I found it online. So on the YouTube channel, there's The Gladiator by Sousa, and I downloaded this video, and so you get the idea. Everybody could just play along, right? You need to turn it up high enough that you can hear it even while playing. And that might take a little bit of practice, but that's a way that the band could keep on playing some stuff together, even though they're not exactly together, right? And that kind of project I don't think would be very difficult to set up. So it's something to consider. So that's all I had about video conferencing. And then I was going to go into music collaboration apps. All right, so these are some programs that are designed for musicians. And so, of course, they try to address some of the latency problems and let people work together. So I want to mention these. I'm not good at these. I have not been particularly successful with them, but you should know that they're there. One is called JamKazam, and one is called jamulus. So these are designed for live music, for being able to play with each other over the internet. They spent lots and lots of time figuring out how to reduce the latency as much as they possibly can. So far, I've only heard of small groups being able to do this, like between 2 and 6. If you get enough people, then it starts to slow down, and then there's so much latency they can't do it anymore. So the reason that we're not all doing this already is it's kind of tricky to get it working. You need to have a fast enough computer and a fast enough internet connection, and this is in order to get the latency lower and lower until it's at a point where you can just play and not worry about the technology anymore. And then an audio interface is your computer has a sound card, it has speakers, it has a microphone. but it's not really intended for music and studio recording or anything. So it turns out there's latency just in the hardware of your sort of built-in standard sound card. So the computer may try to play a sound, but it actually takes 30 milliseconds before you actually hear it or something like that. So the audio interface is a separate box, and I have one I can show you. I'll show you what it looks like. So an audio interface is something like this guy. This was about 150, I think, but they're cheaper ones too. So it has an input for microphones to go into. It has an output for headphones, and on the back it's got some other stuff. It's got a USB to connect to the computer. So if you were going to set up one of these JamKazam sessions, then you would take your audio interface and you'd plug in a microphone like this, and you plug its USB into your computer. There's the USB. And then it's like your sound card, except that it's way faster. It gets the sound out much faster, and it gets the microphone in much faster. And so that cuts down on the time, because what really matters is the time to get all the way from the air in your room through the microphone, through the computer, through the internet to the other person, and out into the air in their room. So everybody needs an audio interface to be able to for this to go acceptably fast. And also, you need to plug in your internet, because Wi-Fi adds some extra delay. So I actually did that for this call just so that my computer, my connection would be more reliable, and so that the music would sound better. So if if you're really trying to get the latency down and use these things, they're kind of a lot of technical things to figure out. And that's basically why I haven't been trying to do it, because the people that I am used to performing with, they don't have all this hardware lying around, and they're not super interested in debugging their network connection and all this stuff. So the groups that I've seen it be successful for are often like rock bands and jazz bands, where they're used to plugging themselves into microphones and they already have some of this stuff. They have to be kind of tech savvy to be able to play those electric guitars and things anyway. So it's not as much of a leap to figure out how to use these things. But they're out there, and I encourage people to try it, and I can try to answer questions if you want to try it. It's definitely not a solution for a whole band or a whole choir. So another thing out there, which I think actually could be more useful for ensembles, for small groups or maybe even large groups, is a thing called Soundtrap, which is it's a website, but it's a multi-track audio editor in a website, and I'll show you what that means. And it's also free, which is handy, so you can try it out. I've found that it works great on a computer and very horribly on a phone. Maybe my phone was just not up to it, but that's what I found. So it's multi-track, so that each person can put their sound on different tracks, and then because it's a website, if I save something on the website, then pretty soon you'll be able to see it on your computer on the website. So it's really made for sort of a collaborative project like this. So imagine that you want to do an audio only virtual ensemble project. So it might
Bryce,
look
we're
like
no longer
this.
seeing your presentation.
Oh my gosh, sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know. There we go. Here's a picture of Soundtrap. So imagine that you want to, in this case, it's to do a 5-part vocal piece. So in Soundtrap, you'd make empty tracks for each person that's eventually going to sing, and I made one for piano reference, which is going to be the piano part, so that we have something to start with. So first, I would record myself or somebody playing the choir's part on the piano, and that becomes one track. And then I would say, okay, here's the project, here's this link, please go record your parts at your own house on your own computer. And so somebody comes in and it's the bass singer. So that person can hear the piano track playing while they sing their part, and they might do it a few times, and when they are done, they save it. And then meanwhile, possibly even at the same time, other people can come in and they hear whatever parts are already recorded, and they can record theirs. So in their headphones, they hear piano and alto and bass while they're singing soprano, and they save that. And eventually, you get everybody. Now, since they're all separate recordings, they're all separate tracks, you can mess around with the balance, or you can, maybe one of them has noise, maybe there's some way to reduce the noise or something. But now you can hear what everybody sounds like together. Or if one of them had some particular problem, you can ask the tenor to go re-record themselves. But it's kind of like the virtual choir, except because it's all on the web, and as soon as they're done recording it, everyone else can see their track appear and listen to it. So I think this could be pretty useful for a group that wants to get into this. It makes an audio-only project, which you might say, oh, but we wanted to make a video. But I want to just make the point that the more complicated of a project you start, the more time you spend on the technology and the less on the music, right? So if you decide, let's make audio recordings of these 5 pieces, you might be able to do 5 pieces in a week. If you decide to make a giant video project out of it, you'll probably just do one, and you might still not be done in a week. So I encourage people to consider also making audio only projects with their groups, not just say, oh, it's got to be a video because that's what everyone's doing, right?
May I add something about Soundtrap?
Sure.
That I think you can also, after you've listened to it, you could re-record yourself and improve, or like a director could say, oh, let's have the rhythm be more precise between this part and this part, or listen to the balance or whatever, and you could re-record it. It's a lot like a Google Doc in that you can, everyone else can see what you're doing at the same time that you are. So it can be more clever.
Yeah, you could describe it as kind of like Google Docs for music. As soon as you press stop on your record, everyone else, you can press stop and save it, and everyone else can see and hear what you did immediately. So it's not real time, but it's a lot closer.
Bryce, do you have to record the entire track at once, or can you edit pieces of it?
You can do pieces. Like I think in this example, it looks like the piano screwed up, and so we stopped. And we started up again and recorded the rest. So yeah, it's like an audio editor, if you're familiar with those. That you can do a fair number of things with it. It's a simple audio editor, but the fact that you can collaborate on it and send different people to the same editor all at the same time is kind of, I've never seen that before. So if anyone wants to try Soundtrap, and I would be glad to help people try it, because I think it has a lot of potential.
What kind of deals does it have? I'm looking at the website. It's got some pricing, try for free.
You can, I did this for free. There are some features you can't get unless you pay them something. But you can record yourself. You can make a multi-track project and share it with people. You can do a lot of stuff with the free version. I have the free version. I haven't ever paid them anything.
Okay.
So next I was going to get into the actual virtual choir thing. Any other comments, questions so far?
I guess one, which is, have you tried with instruments other than piano?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is there any reason to think they wouldn't work?
No, it should work.
Okay. Just not 65.
Well, I don't know if there's a limit on how many tracks. I really don't. But I would definitely start with a small group first and see how it goes. With all the technology stuff, you have to find a group that's willing to learn all these different things. and if you're asking them to do something complicated, then some of them just won't. They won't get around to it, or their device can't handle it or whatever. But if you're asking them to do something simple, like play along to a Zoom meeting, then they probably will. So you kind of have to balance the complexity and what you think everyone's up to.
And also people's comfort zone with hearing themselves. Sometimes it would be perfectly adequate to be added to the ensemble, but since you hear it as a solo, you're like, I'm not good enough. Well, we don't want people to be stressed out by that concept.
Yeah,
I see it has auto tune and stuff, so you can actually maybe correct yourself.
There we go. Auto tune the band. No, but I think it would be fun to try if you just get a group that is interested and willing to kind of mess around with it and learn how.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's much easier to get into than video editing, I would say. Okay, so next I was going to talk about the virtual choir, virtual ensemble videos, and how to plan a project and do it. So there are lots of tutorials out there, starting in the last. Well, they've been around for a long time, long before the whole shutdown and everything. So there are a lot of tutorials out there, and you can Google them and get great detail on how to do it. Also, some of the instructions are specific to your video editor, and so I'll show you something, but yours probably has buttons that are all in different places and stuff. So the details will be different, but the ideas are probably the same. So basic steps, you find people who want to do it, and you choose some music. You create and send out a guide track that will help people stay in tempo and start and cut off at the right time. You wait for everybody to record themselves and send a video back. You collect them all. And then optionally, you can use an audio editor to put the sound together, and then you put everyone's video together. So I'll go through all the different parts of that. So first, the people. We've definitely heard, some people are excited about this and others are just not. As Catherine was saying, if you have to feel comfortable going into a room by yourself and playing all the way through, and then keep on doing it until you get a recording that sounds great. And that's kind of a turnoff for some people. It's not just the music part, but it's not a social activity at all. And we're used to ensembles being a very social activity. So it's kind of the opposite in some ways. So you have to find people who really want to do it. They have to have a smartphone or video camera or something like that and be willing to learn how to share their video. That hasn't been too much of a barrier, but anyway, it's a great option, of course, if people live thousands of miles away. But it's not for everyone. It is kind of a big technical project, and in some ways, like the guy who's putting the videos together has more fun than anyone else. Everyone else, they spent 5 minutes here and 30 minutes there, but the person who's putting it together, they spend hours of fun. No, it doesn't have to be super complicated, but it's definitely on the tech heavy side, and so you're gonna spend more time messing with your computer than actually doing music, and that's part of the game if you choose to go this way. So as far as what pieces to do, these are just some things to think about that'll make it either simpler or more complicated. If there are fewer people in it, there's fewer videos and it's simpler. You want to have your first project, you shouldn't choose like a 30-minute long piece or it'll drive you crazy. Start with something bite-sized at first, and then decide what you want to do next. Steady tempo makes it easier because every time things stop and start, there's more opportunities for people to choose different interpretations or cut off at different times, and it won't sound as good if there's a lot of, if there are ragged starts and stops everywhere. Of course, it helps if you've already played it together, but you can't always have that. And just a reminder, audio only is simpler. All right, so the guide track. This is a pretty important part in getting your project to succeed. So if you imagine if you just said, everyone play this piece and send me a video and I'll put it together, without any guidance, without trying, you're going to have everyone going at a different speed. They might not be in tune with each other. They're definitely not going to cut off together. It's going to be kind of a mess. So the purpose of the guide track is to reduce that mess. And the purpose is not to sound good on a guide track. It's to be plenty loud and plenty clear so that you know when to start and you know when to stop, and everything is very, very clear what you're supposed to do. Short sounds, like you don't want to have sounds in the guide track that are really like, you very gradually come in or whatever. Like a piano sound is very good because it starts at a very specific moment and then it decays after that. I would say the audio is more important than the video. Sometimes a guide track will have someone conducting, but what we've often seen is that like the performers are mostly looking at their music anyway, and they're just barely going to notice the conductor on their tiny little screen over there in the corner. It might help on cutoffs or something, but having the audio be really, really clear with like metronome ticks or people counting or whatever, that ends up doing more good usually than the video part. We like to make our guide tracks to make the editing easier later, and you'll see this. We like to always start like this. Okay, please clap on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3. We do that every time because the clap is really, really easy to spot in the video editor and the audio editor, and it helps you to line everybody up once you get all the files together. So I suggest that. And also, counting off, you want to count so that they know when to begin. And if there are any retards or something, you may want to add even more counts, like 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, that kind of thing, so that it's just really clear where the beat is. So I have an example of a guide track. Oops. This is the one that we use for the quintet. To synchronize, please give a loud clap on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and a few moments to find your instrument. Get ready, and you'll hear 3 full measures before the music starts. Okay, so you get the idea. So we have the clap thing and then a very clear count off. And I'll just skip to the end because there's a retard at the end and we wanted to make the retard and the cutoff be clear. And off. So you heard me butt in there and start talking to make a clear, specific moment when everyone should cut off. And also you heard a bunch of things. This guide track was a little bit of everything. We tried everything all at once. So you heard metronomes and you heard people playing and you heard people counting. It doesn't necessarily need to have all those things, but we were just kind of figuring it out as we go, and we added more stuff until it was clear. So guide tracks. The very, very simplest guide track there could possibly be is that you find an existing recording of that piece and you say, everyone play along to that. Here's the link. There, you're done. You could even get it in Audacity or something and slow it down or speed it up until it goes the speed that you want. That would be the simplest way. It helps to add a 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing helps. It could be as simple as you start a metronome ticking and you count, and then you just hear the metronome ticking. But then it would be pretty easy to lose count and you'd play on the wrong beat maybe, because you can't hear anyone else. So that's why we often have a piano sound or synthesized instruments or something, so that it's obvious where you are in the music. You can have a conductor, of course. You can make a video of someone conducting, and that's fine. It's just that often people are going to be looking at their music, and if they can see the conductor, it'll be like on a laptop over there out of the corner of their eye, and it's going to be pretty hard to see the conductor very well. So they mostly end up relying on their ears more. So in that one that you heard, it was like a mix of everything. We didn't have a conductor, but we had metronomes and pianos and trumpets all going at once. So it could be much simpler than that. Just one caution about synthesized instruments. Sometimes like a synthesized trombone will kind of sound like wah, 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 and you can't really tell when it starts. So it may be better to have a piano sound or something that's really, really clear when it starts than something that's a little bit vague. It might sound better, but if it doesn't have a clear attack, then it's not going to help you to stay in sync. All right, so you've got a guide track, you send it to everybody, and now it's time for them to record themselves. So you can find example instructions for a lot of virtual choirs and get ideas from the instructions. There's some really well-written ones out there. They're very, very clear. But the basic thing is that they're going to take a video of themselves playing while listening to the guide track. And they must use headphones. So make sure that you emphasize that lots of times, because if they record themselves and you can hear the clicking and talking and stuff, then you'll have to just ask them to do it again. So headphones. Some of the instructions are like, they say headphones like 10 times. Don't forget the headphones. Don't forget the headphones. So just to be really specific, if I was going to record myself playing an instrument, let's see, I might set it up like, here, I'm going to stop sharing for a sec. So I might set up, let's say, I have my music stand. I'd have maybe a laptop with headphones playing the guide track. So there's one device playing and then a different device recording. At least I found that easier. So the laptop with headphones is playing the guide track in my ear. And then off to the side, I've got, a cell phone looking at me. And so I'll set it up on a music stand or a tripod, or prop it up on whatever you can find. So then I'll press play on the cell phone so that it's videoing. And then I'll get the laptop to start playing the guide track. And so now I do the 1, 2, 3 clap, and the music starts. I got my instrument out. I play the whole thing all the way through. And then when the guide track stops, I stop the video. So it's kind of a lot of pieces, but it takes a little bit of practice to play along with it. You have to get the guide track to be the right volume in your headphones so that you can still hear it while you're playing or singing or whatever. But that's basically it. So what the cell phone or the video camera picked up is it sees you, and it hears only you playing your part. It doesn't hear the guide track at all. That's what you want. And then, let's see, go back to sharing. And then everyone's got to send in their videos. And some people have done this lots and lots of times, and other people have never needed to share a video. We often use Google Drive, but there are lots of ways to send stuff. They need to send you a file that's too big to email. And so however you deal with that, normally, Google Drive is a popular way, or Dropbox, or there are several other things like that. So any questions on this part? Okay, so now let's imagine you've got all your recordings have come in, and now it's time to start putting them together. So I'm going to show video editing using a website called WeVideo, which we've started to like a lot. It doesn't do everything in the world, but it's pretty easy to use, and it can do all the things you need to make a basic virtual choir thing here. So WeVideo, where is it?
What?
It's underneath. Come on. Underneath the little zoom thing. Okay, can you see this okay? Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
All set.
Okay.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Yep,
So this
easy.
is the WeVideo website, which is a video editor, and it looks pretty similar to other programs. I'm sure yours will look a little different, but hopefully it'll have a lot of the same ideas. So usually up here on the upper left, there's like a bunch of choices of clips that video clips that you can drag down into the timeline, and then over on the right, there's this sort of preview of whatever is showing on that part of the timeline. So this little blue thing is called the playhead, and it tells as it moves across the time. So this video clip is Cindy playing the trumpet. So if I slide this across, you sort of see the different parts of her video, and then here you see Peter playing the trombone, etc. So to make a virtual ensemble, we need to have these happen at the same time. So I'm going to drag these down here until they are happening at the same time, but most likely they aren't perfectly lined up the first time. So here you can see the audio part. So Peter started way before Cindy, so we need to line these guys up, and they need to be lined up pretty much perfectly. So this is where that clap comes in. So we asked everybody to do a 1, 2, 3 clap at the very start. So I'm zooming in, and you see this little blip. That is the clap, and that's the clap. So this is why we do the clap, because it's just really, really obvious. You can spot it from a mile away, and we can zoom in and sort of get it as close as we can, because if those claps are lined up, then hopefully all their notes are lined up too. So that saves a whole lot of work. That's so much easier than lining up the first note, or looking at the person's fingers and trying to figure out if they're exactly, slightly ahead or slightly behind. It's so much easier. Okay, I'll zoom back out. And here's Sun playing the tuba.
Can tell you're not a conductor because you don't put the tuba at the bottom.
Okay, we've got to line up these claps. So I've done this a few times. Come on. Okay, that's pretty well lined up. Okay, now we see everybody's video is all slapped on top of each other. So we need to shrink them down and move them into their respective corners. Now on this program, I double click one of the clips, and that brings up this screen where I can make the different videos different size and kind of move them around. So I'm just going to choose different spots so that we can see all the videos at once. So you get the idea. And so now I should be able to see them. So you see how much the clap helped, because like Sun doesn't start playing at the beginning. So if I put this audio right with that audio, it would have sounded horrible. So the clap was exactly the right amount of time before he starts to play. So it just helps a lot. So that's the basic idea. Now these guys are lined up. And so there are some other things we might want to do. For example, maybe we don't want to see the exact same view the whole way, the whole time. Like, for example, Cindy stops playing here, so maybe we would want to fade her out during the time that she's not playing. So once everyone's all lined up, we could take this video clip and chop it a little bit and erase this part. So now if we play it, she's going to disappear at the moment that her rests come. And then when she comes back in, she reappears. So I find that if you see the exact same thing for like 3 minutes, it gets a little bit boring to watch. So it's nice if people if some things are moving around a little bit. And so having people appear or disappear or sometimes come up in different locations makes it more interesting to watch. If, maybe every 30 seconds or when the music changes character or something, you can move stuff around. Let's see. So we synchronized people, we shrank them, we haven't trimmed off the clap part. So nobody really wants to watch us clap. So of course we're going to chop that part off. So for the real video, use the clap to line them up, but then we can just delete. I split the tracks again right here just before they start to play, so that I can delete this initial stuff. And now when it starts, now they start just like a second or two after the video starts. And then maybe I would want to add a title or some credits or something like that.
How do you vary the grid of where people are appearing on the final thing there? I've seen things where people pop in and out and they float from one side to the other.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do something like that. Let's see. Okay. Let's choose something simple like let's imagine we want Sun to have. Imagine he has a solo for a little while, and we want him to take up the whole screen. And then after that, we can have everyone show up in different places. So I would just keep on splitting it, like wherever I want it to change location. So let's say I split it here. So let's say he's got a tuba solo. So everyone's going to disappear except for Sun, and he's going to be in a different spot. So I'm going to take that little clip and make it different size.
Okay.
But you also just cut out their audio, correct?
In this case,
and that's what I was going to ask next. You're cutting out the audio, so the sort of the ambiance is going to be changing.
Okay. So what I went straight into video editing because I think you can get away with doing a project without ever doing any audio editing at all, if you choose. In this project, I'm going to say the audio editing is optional because we can hear them, we can adjust their balance, we can make some instruments louder, and this is entirely in the video editor. And also, most video editors, there's a way. Let's see. There's a way to say, okay, like let's imagine that someone was too loud for a while, and then later it was fine. So I can draw little shapes here that sort of turn the volume down a little bit for a while, and then back up later. So I can adjust some kinds of balance problems right here in the video editor. And if that's good enough, if you're satisfied with the sound, then you don't need the audio editor. You only need it for more advanced, like cleaning up noise on one track or something kinds of problems. So if you're in the, so you can get away with using only the video editor sometimes. And I thought that was simpler, so I was going to describe that first. So you're right, I chopped out their audio. So let me undo that. Probably what I would really do what I really did was I used an audio editor to make a track that had everyone's sound, and I liked the balance, and I messed around with it until I liked it perfectly. And then I put that down here
I
as
see.
an audio
Okay.
track that's separate from all these.
Right.
And then I muted all the videos.
Videos. Right.
That's what I did, but it's more complicated than just getting their videos together.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's
So,
that's the way you do it. Yeah.
right. One of my worries about this is that it sounds daunting and people will just not try it. So I'm trying to give a lot of different steps, like try this one, try the simpler one, and then when you're ready, try this more complicated one. So, okay, so we showed a way to get, just, erased too much, sorry.
And another question, this is all a web tool? I mean, you're on a website here. You're not even
this is a web,
installing any.
Yeah, this is a website that is a video editor, and I had not seen something like this before, but it works pretty well.
I wonder how they do that.
How did you get the files from the collaboration drive into this editor then?
Okay, let's say I have a video. So let's see, I have one right here. It's
drag and drop.
The gladiators. So, yeah, in this case, I can just take it over here, and now my computer is uploading that video file up to the website. And it can take a while, but it will eventually get there, and then I can drag it into the project. Looks like it lets me drag it into the project even though it's not all there, but it'll eventually get there.
Okay, but they can't go retrieve it directly from Google Drive or Dropbox itself.
Well,
it has to pass through your computer.
Believe it or not, no, it can. So import. So this website is pretty cool.
Oh, okay, good.
I've told it how to get into my Google account, and so it can actually go get a video off of my Google Drive and bring it into this project.
Huh.
So is this free?
Wonder if they have any job openings.
So WeVideo, you can try it. You can try it, and you can do sort of low resolution projects for free, and then you need to pay them some amount to use sort of.
Sure.
Hello? It said I was muted. Help! Zoom keeps muting me somehow. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Zoom kept muting me, and I don't know why. Okay. Yeah. So I've been pretty impressed with this website. So in a minute I'll show some pictures from another video editor. But so let's see, what else was I gonna show on here? So we can fade people out. We can change the layout. We can add a title. Oh yeah. So to change the layout, I kind of showed that already, but like, let's say after the tuba solo, we want everybody to show up, but in totally different places and different sizes. So, but since the clip is split here, we can just change, we can rearrange them. We can rearrange this clip and this clip without affecting this clip and this one. All right. So that's WeVideo. It can do a lot of things that I need. There are a few things that it can't do that I wanted to use. This is a picture of my video editor, which is called PowerDirector on Windows. And the main thing that I've noticed that it can do that WeVideo can't is to say, I don't want the whole video to show, I only want this part. I only want, a certain part that has the person's face, and we chop off the part that sees their ceiling and the rest of their living room or whatever. WeVideo can't do that, but more advanced video editors can. So this is entirely optional. It was just because I wanted it to look different from other virtual choirs that I've seen. I made a little background that has transparent parts where the videos were going to show up, and then I made the videos have this funny rounded rectangle shape, and that way it could show up inside these these little things. That just made it look a little fancier, but entirely optional. So that's all I was going to say about video. I have some stuff about audio if we want to. Do you have any video questions so far?
Not me. I'm done. Thanks.
When Bryce, when I saw you changing where people are dynamically, can you make them bigger and smaller as the video is going? Does it have that capability?
So some video editors can do things like at the beginning of the clip, I want it to be this size in this corner. And then by the time you get to this moment, 12 seconds later, I want you to be this size. And then by the end, I want you to go all the way off to the right and disappear. And then it'll just gradually move across as the time goes on. I've not done that in this one, but let's see. Yeah, this one isn't as advanced. It looks like you can do some amount of that with WeVideo, with PowerDirector and with Premiere and Final Cut. I'm sure that there are ways to do much fancier motion while the video is going. So we use this for simple stuff, and it's a great way to learn how and to make something in not very much time. But when you want to make it fancier, or you have ideas and it just won't let you do it, then that's when you might need to buy some software and learn how that one works, and it could be more advanced. Okay, so for audio, the reason for virtual choir stuff, I'm saying audio editing is optional because this, you could hear people, you could adjust their balance, you can take care of a lot of things just with the video editor. If you want more control over the audio, then you can use an audio editor to mix all the audio parts and then put the result into the video editor instead. So a pretty popular one, because it's free and pretty capable, is called Audacity. So I have an example of using Audacity to line up some tracks here. So this is from a virtual choir that I did that had 36 people. So this is me singing, and here's someone else. Hey, we've got Ken Troop in here. We'll put him in too.
You're gonna embarrass me, huh?
All right. So as you see, everybody is very different volume levels, and their little claps are at totally different times. So this guy, Joel Hirsch, I can barely even see his audio. So I'm going to amplify this. So Audacity can do a lot of things, and I think it's probably good enough for most projects. In a few minutes, I'll show you some examples of things that a fancier, more complicated audio editor can do. So I amplified him, so at least now I can see the waveforms. But here's the clap. I want that to line up with this. So I'm going to use this little sliding thing called the time shift tool. And you just click and drag it until things line up. So time shift tool does this magic stuff. And I can't recommend that clap too much. It just saves a lot of work. And I'm zooming in. I'm using the mouse to zoom in. I'm sure there are other ways to zoom like this. So I got to get those claps lined up as much as I can. And then hopefully. Okay, so we're singing, and we're all lined up, hopefully, and that's the basic idea. And then I could save it. Well, in Audacity, I would export it as a WAV file or something like that, and then you'll have a single file that has everybody mixed together. So that's Audacity.
If, Bryce, you mentioned before that you took the audio out of the video and then extracted that and then re-edited it in Audacity or something similar and then re-imported it. How did you get the audio out of the video?
Let's see. I think for some video formats, Audacity was able to just read it. I forget exactly. So a lot of these came in as like MP4 or something. Let's see. So like here's an MP4. I'll just try to drag it in and see what happens. So it was able to read that video and say, okay, well here's the audio part. In some cases, I think I tried using VLC, which is another video program, to extract audio, but then I think it turned out bad. It had weird extra noises, and I didn't like it. So I found that it worked better, for me at least, to just drag it into Audacity.
On a related note, so does everybody's cell phone put out the same video file format?
No, not at all.
What do you recommend?
Well, you kind of take whatever you get. And so a lot of times, well, my video editor was able to read all of them, but some of them, it seemed to be struggling to read. And in some cases, I went to some website, like, how do you convert a blah, blah, blah into a MP4? And the website did it for me. So there was, yes, there was definitely a mix of formats, but I don't think most people have control over that. So I just kind of messed around and found a converter somewhere.
Cubase is only $100.
Yeah, they have different versions. I think the lightweight version is $100. Okay, so this project with 36 singers, I really did it in Cubase, and I'll just describe a few of the features that made me go learn Cubase, because there's not just buying it, you have to mess around for a while to learn how to use it as well. So that's why, just start with Audacity and do whatever you can. And if you've done a few projects that way and start to get frustrated, or you start to think you need something else, then at that time you know what to shop for. So one example of things that I did in Cubase was, for example, I had all these sopranos and I could group them together and mute them all or solo them all, so I hear just sopranos or everything but the soprano all together. I took all the soprano sound and sent it into a channel that I could control all by itself. So like this volume knob controls all the sopranos all at once and all the altos all at once, because sometimes the balance wasn't right and you want to sort of adjust a whole section at a time. I don't know how I would do that in Audacity. Another thing that the more advanced editors can do, this track here is called an automation track that adjusts the volume at different times during the timeline. So what we see here is that okay, I should back up and say, so cell phones and video cameras, very frequently, they will take your dynamics and squash them completely. So no matter how great you did your diminuendo or whatever, many devices will just make it all exactly the same volume no matter what. So I don't consider this cheating to add some dynamics back in, because everyone's devices squashed them. So here we wanted like a subito piano or something, and so I added a thing that turns down the volume of everybody right here at this moment, and then later we build back up to the finale. And so I added this back in. This applies to everybody, but like here's an example where I wanted the tenors to be a little louder just for a few notes, and so I could kind of record, I can add these little things and say I want the tenor track to do this shape, or I don't know, make it curved or something. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff in here. that I don't know how I would do otherwise. Let's see, what else was I gonna say? Right, some people's videos will have weird hums or noise from their air conditioner, or the dog was barking or whatever. So you sometimes need to fade a person out for a little bit and then fade them back in to avoid some kind of weird noise. If it's like a continuous hum, then sometimes you can use equalization to like find the frequencies that are noisy. And sorry, I realized it's getting dark. The noisy frequencies and reduce them. So there's a lot of stuff you can do to try to, like, if something's distracting, you may be able to fix it in an audio editor. Another example, like for singers, there's when are we going to say the last consonant? So, for example, we go and find me. So the very last thing ended with a T, and so come on. So here's the T. That's the T. So if I was late and it sounds terrible because I'm late, I could just blow it away. No more T. or I really want the T, but it's late, so I'm just going to erase it and kind of put it here instead. You know, so you can kind of mess around with things if you take the time to bother with that kind of stuff. So you know, if something bothers you enough, then you'll go find, okay, who was it? Who did that? Whose dog was barking? or whatever. And you can kind of clean up some stuff if you have to. Let's see, I talked about that. Right, so if you have a lot of different audio tracks, I think that would be a good reason to use a more advanced program, because then you can sort of group things and deal with them as a clump. I think I covered all these things. Yeah, so I have some screenshots in the slides, but you saw it live. So any questions about this? Just concluding, virtual ensembles look and sound great. They can be great publicity. They can be fun to do. I would say the person putting them together may have more fun than anyone because they are going to spend hours on it. But it's a very tech-heavy project. You probably will spend more time on your computer than actually doing music, and maybe that's fine with you. Maybe you're excited about it and learning new skills and stuff. But for the individuals who are playing it, they may have only spent a few minutes on this project, and then a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and then finally they see themselves as a little box on the video. But that wasn't very much playing. So that's why I wanted to emphasize all these other things, that if the goal is to get people playing as much as possible and playing together, then the virtual ensemble, it's not a lot of playing. It's a lot of tech. So keep thinking about how you can play, how you can meet even in small groups and play in person, either inside or outside or whatever. And you can take advantage of the Zoom calls and other internet-based, computer-based ways of doing things. I think the band play along with Zoom would be quite easy to organize. And if people are a little bit more into it, they could try the Soundtrap. I'd be glad to help people try Soundtrap and learn how to use it. And then doing some virtual ensemble is great, but it is a big project, and it's not the only choice out there. So you spend more time playing music. You want to choose a simpler project probably, and then maybe have one virtual ensemble project. But that'll just be some amount of playing and a lot of computer stuff. But it makes a great product, and it's fun to watch them for sure, and it's fun to see yourself and send it to your friends and things.
Yeah.
So any questions on any of this?
Did you try any of the other free audio stuff. I mean, I use Cakewalk and Sonar, and I know that was sold to somebody, BandLab, and they have a free online version of it.
That's right. I've heard that that's free and that it's quite good. I haven't tried that.
You haven't tried those? Yeah, I haven't either. I mean, the one I bought was like years ago, and I'm done spending money on it. But okay.
The thing that actually caused me to buy Cubase and learn how is that I was doing a lot with virtual instruments where I could play an electric piano and then get a string sound or a drum sound or an anything sound. So some of these tracks could be like string, MIDI music, and then others can be recordings of live people all kind of put together. So I was That's a little off topic.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's fun, but as you said, it can be a time sink.
Well, sometimes you need a time sink.
Yeah, I got work to be a time sink, so I kind of, if I retire.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
I like the whole clap thing. I was actually thinking of starting with speaker unplugged, headphones unplugged, generate a tone, and then have instructions to everybody plug in.
Yeah.
Now, the clap is probably the easiest, right?
No, I agree.
Yeah, we learned it from some other group. Sorry?
That's why they have the big clapper at the beginning of every shot in movie production.
Right, you got to go out and buy one of those.
Yeah, it gives you the video and the audio. You can do both.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how to get better quality audio. I mean, those phones are not.
Yeah, I didn't get into that. I've been surprised how good cell phones sound. At least for the singers, it sounds great, and for instruments, once you find the right distance away, like you probably don't want it right next to your bell or whatever. It's pretty good, but of course you can get fancier with getting better microphones and stuff like that. And some people have said, for example, can I send a video but also a WAV file that was made by a different device? And I'm like, what the heck? It would just even more things to line up, but okay, fine. But it works, and if it gives them a better sound, then that's fine.
Although you can use your laptop. I mean, I could use my Mac and plug the audio interface into that through the USB or whatever.
If you use an external interface, isn't it easy to disable things like the compression then?
Yeah, the audio interface is made for that kind of thing. It's made to plug in a real microphone and capture exactly what the microphone heard.
The phone doesn't really have that capability, unless I don't know what you can do on a phone externally. But certainly a laptop with the camera in it can do all that. And then you could use the audio interface with the built-in camera. And then you have
a thing for phones that are, I think, a thing called an iRig is supposed to be able to plug into a phone and let you plug in an instrument.
Yep, I don't doubt that they have all sorts of fun stuff like that. It's like $40.
Yeah. A lot of USB mics, you can get just the simple USB to Lightning or USB to USB-C adapter and plug that in.
Cool.
Right, that'll improve the quality a lot. So you just have to find a device to play the guide track on, and then a device to do recording. Maybe you can do it in the same. You probably can figure out how to get the same device to both play the guide track and also record on the mic. But sometimes they collide with each other too.
Almost every video I've seen of vocal groups, most of the singers are only listening through one ear. Do you get leakage from the other side?
Interesting. I don't know. I haven't run into that really.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have a regular headset, you can just skew one of the earpieces off to the side, and it's hitting your head, so it might still block the sound. But you have one ear open.
But I think singers like to at least hear themselves naturally, as opposed to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, everybody.
Bryce.
Mm-hmm.
It's Beth Norton. I've been listening in. On Soundtrap, you said it's free. Is there? There's a free version? Because I was just looking at the website, and it seems like it's a free trial, or is it the trial just for the more advanced type?
Well, I know that I've used it for a few months and I didn't pay.
And no one's ever charged you, all right? Because it's got the 1 month free. Interesting. Maybe you just sign in. You're a free user. Yeah.
I'm still a free user. I've been that for a while.
It may be like Acapella does the same thing. There's a free version.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to like do things that are longer than their regular thing. All right, well, I'll try and see.
Yeah.
How many voices could you do in the
Soundtrap?
Soundtrap?
I don't know. I haven't seen a limit. I wouldn't be surprised if you get to like 20 and they say you got to pay for 21.
Right.
I'm just guessing though, because they want to show you and let you do some pretty cool stuff and get addicted to it, and then you pay.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I'll have to find that. And also, I'll say that for some of the virtual choir things that I've done, they recommend just putting your earphones down the back. I think that's more an aesthetic thing than anything else. But
right, so they're not so obvious.
They're so obvious, and you don't have the hanging earpiece.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if you know, but there's one of the first really giant virtual choir projects was by Eric Whitaker.
Yeah.
And he had like 7,000 or 10,000 people or something that did it. So you can imagine how many videos they put together. But they wrote really, really, really specific instructions about how to how to dress and how much of your how much of your body should show in the video, and lighting and all kinds of suggestions. So you can just look at that for
it's quite intimidating. I did the latest one, but it's good because it gives
Yeah. Well,
like
I guess
to the device.
one really, really simple thing to ask people is please do it horizontal, not vertical. It's just because the final video editing screen is going to be horizontal, so it's much easier to put them together if the videos are horizontal.
Nice.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Bryce?
No, thanks.
Great information, I thought.
It's been a great tutorial. Great job.
Excellent.
Great intro. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm happy to help people with this. From my point of view, I've learned how to do it, and I've done a few, and now I want to help other people do it. But I don't want to like take on 10 more. They're fun, but also I like to make music too, and this is more of a computer project than it is a music project once you get into the video part. But I hope that an audio only project you could get to the point where you're just spending more of the time on music. Like the Soundtrap thing, you might be able to do a lot of your recording even while you're on a Zoom call with people. Here you do your thing, and then we'll all do our thing, and now let's listen to it together. Like I think it could be more interactive than the other alternatives I've seen.
Give it a try. So this has been recorded, and so I'll make that available to anybody, whether they were on it or wants to see it, or anybody that wasn't able to watch it. And it'll be great to have.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you,
Did you say
Bryce.
you're making
Yeah,
Appreciate you
thanks a
doing
lot.
it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks.
Again.
Thanks a lot.
Hey,
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Good night.